thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. What? Hey, whoa, you guys. Good morning. That's right, because it is Tuesday, July 2nd, and today is National Wildland Firefighters Day. Shout out to all those firefighters out there in those wildlands. It's also National Anisette Day. Whatever the hell.
Anisette.
Anisette. Anisette.
Isn't that like licorice?
I think it is.
Which a liqueur.
Gross.
Oh, something like that. Anyways,
Sure.
I'll tell you what. I don't even know why it has a day because no one even knows what it is. But nonetheless, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above or down below on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off first, that's right, we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the Quasimodo caretaker, and the baby diaper changer. That's right. Here with all the wipes to clean everything up is none other than the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
And the crowd goes wild. I love how you talk like I'm still changing diapers. My daughter's 4 years old, Jason. So maybe that's just, maybe that's you were still getting your diapers changed at that age. I don't know. But
every time he fumbles the intro for me, you have to change his diaper anyway on the show. So
hey, I guess it's like old people shitting. It all depends.
Oh, that's cute. I see what you did there. That's cute.
Either way, my story today is a little bad news coming out of Todd Denkin's neck of the woods. Seems like we have dirty psychedelics back in the news this morning. Second day in a row. We got a story about the broader case brought by MSG yesterday. It is the same brand, but this one is specifically in just Nevada. All right, so Justine Verasti out of Fox 5 News says all the flavors of popular magic mushroom brand Diamond Shrooms is being recalled by the FDA. In Nevada specifically, it says 39 illnesses have been reported and 23 people have been hospitalized in Vegas. Right, so people who became ill or experienced symptoms of seizures, depression, agitation, abnormal heart rates, hypertension, nausea, and vomiting. And they still do not know exactly which retailers are selling the brand because it is not really regulated
or legal.
It ain't illegal, you know what I'm saying? This is getting bad, and it seems like they might have found the epicenter being in Las Vegas, but I don't know. We're gonna be keeping our ears to the street on this story specifically. We talked about this yesterday. Maybe mushrooms should come with COAs. We know that the psychedelics side of the game is a lot more opaque than our side, but I would argue what is a COA going to do? People fake COAs like already. And I think like in the mushroom, MDMA, like a lot of the psychedelics realm, you have a lot of people that'll be a lot quicker to forge these things than anything else. But that's just my take on it. Make sure you know you're getting your mushrooms from a trusted source. That's all I can say on this one. Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. Todd, you even seen these dirty shrooms? You seen these diamond shrooms out in your neck of the woods?
I haven't personally seen them, but I did. I was talking to somebody yesterday who was in a smoke shop and just picking up some rolling papers and started walking around and was like, wow, what are those? And totally had psychedelic shrooms on the shelf in like a separate, like locked sort of counter. And in there was also THCO, Delta 8, all kinds of illegal substances, and just selling it right out in the open in a smoke shop, right? So,
Jason, you remember what MSG said? Yeah, yesterday he said it was like DMT found in some of these.
Well, it's not DMT. It's like some other compound that's like super similar to DMT. It's like DMA or something like that. I forget what the actual letter was, but it was DM, another letter.
It was DMT.
Well, they're tryptamines, and just because it says DMT, dimethyltryptamine, doesn't mean that it's the same DMT that we all know. The psilocin turns into 4-HO DMT, and that's how your body absorbs it. So,
did you say 4-Hos?
4-HO.
Oh,
okay.
He's trying to tell you what you're
Look, we do Sesame Street around here, bro. We spell out the words, okay?
Okay.
You say O-V-Ho?
4-HO. So
I am not tripping over hose, okay?
I want to say one thing. I saw the show yesterday. I saw this article. I saw Matthew talking about this. Big shout out, Matthew St. Germain. Love my guy. This is the scary part about the consumer packaged goods industry, is that we're quick to adapt these things to our society, and then we want to sell them because that's how capitalism works. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to these types of substances, it's pretty dangerous. And what we don't want to see, this is where things they bifurcate from our normal path of cannabis, is there's a lot of people that are on actual psychotropic medication that's given to them by a doctor, by a psychologist, by a psychiatrist, however. And then you have these natural alkaloids that play on a lot of the same kind of notes in your brain as a lot of these other psychotropic drugs that are created by pharma. So, there's a danger in mixing these things, I think, and the other danger is just this blasé kind of situation where everyone's like, oh, it's an acid gummy, it's a mushroom gummy. It's you guys, for the first time you're taking a substance, I probably would just take the natural, alkaloid, the mushroom, just the raw mushroom itself, instead of taking something that's probably similar to the compound of interest, but not the actual compound of interest. So just because your brain pathways metabolically will they'll affect the same parts of your brain, and it'll look similar on let's say a graph, on a test, that they hook up electrodes to your brain and they test your brain while you're on these substances, but in no way, shape, or form are they the same. So in everyone's eyes, everyone has their own opinion, but my opinion, natural is always better. An orange that is grown off of a tree and you pluck that is better than some concentrated orange flavored drink with electrolytes. So in any case, just keep it natural, and that's a safe bet.
Well, shout out
BBL.
Shout out to Mike West in the chat, and he got it right. I do remember this. 4-ACO DMT is what it was.
4-ACO is the synthetic derivative that I was just talking about, that's similar to the natural alkaloid, that's different. But DMT, just the suffix of DMT on one of these molecules doesn't mean it's actually the DMT that we're all used to. These tryptamines are all in nature, and that's what they're actually testing in the indoles, is the tryptamines.
Interesting.
You got to put in work. You got to lick a toad to get off. Otherwise, you're just shortcutting.
That's what you call her?
They seem like kind of a symptom of the people who gave us shitty carts and failed out of the weed industry, jumping over to try to be the first for this little rush. So I think, this is a testament to greed and people who shouldn't be making things that you put in your body, period, especially if you're trying to use it in a medicinal sense.
So
I'll say that
I find it interesting that the Nevada Cannabis Control Board is putting out this warning and is monitoring all of this stuff. It has nothing to do with them. I find it really strange.
Yeah, they don't even have jurisdiction, right, Todd? They only have jurisdiction inside of. Hold on. They only have jurisdiction inside of cannabis licensed buildings, though. Am I correct on that, Todd?
That is correct.
So they don't even have jurisdiction on this.
So what it is,
right.
is that how it works, and big shout out to my homegirl Julia Bramante at the Colorado State Department of Health and Environment. CDPHE in Colorado has actually taken on the testing and these, I guess the pseudo certification of these products. They are actually taking products that they find in the shelves. They have, whether it's like excise and licensing or code enforcement taking those things, or they have a shopper that's going to buy those things, or people like me are potentially donating those to be tested, and so that they can get like all of the data and the ranges of all these different compounds that are in these products. And that's how it how it's shaping up in Colorado. Other places I don't know, but Colorado, the CDPHE is in charge of kind of regulating all of the labs, right? So in this case, with Nevada per se, is like that's the regulating body. So yes, they don't have necessarily much to do with like just general stuff, but cannabis, alternative medicines, those things being tested, it makes sense that they have some they have a seat at the table. I don't know if authority is the right word to use there, but having them have a part in that conversation is essential, because they have adapted new techniques, new methodologies for testing things that haven't been tested before or haven't been critically tested before.
Or should they start a mushroom board and not lump it into the cannabis board?
Well, hold on.
I'm not even allowed.
Todd,
I'm not even allowed to test other products.
That was going to be my question.
Cannabis, hemp, and
that was going to be my question, Todd.
We're not allowed to.
So I couldn't walk in as a concerned citizen and be like, hey, DigiPath, I want you guys to test these mushroom gummies to see if there's any contaminants in there. You guys couldn't do that.
That is correct.
Well, hold on, Todd. Let me ask you a question. So, like, if I have like something's not a drug, right? Just like I wanted to test my water. Could I bring my water to you to have you test my water?
Water and soil is okay.
Okay,
but that's it.
What about food? What about food, Todd?
Can't test food.
What if I didn't like? If I thought
unless it's a gummy or a cannabis drink.
I will personally test your brisket. Okay.
So like if I'm at a high level casino, and I think that I ordered some type of food, and I think that they're trying to serve me something that is not what they serve me, which happens a lot of time with fish dishes. You couldn't test that.
Oh.
Is that with fish sticks?
Oh, I see what you did.
Squares.
Go.
Jason, I'm sure your fish stickies are just right.
And on that fish sticky one,
no, we're not allowed to do that. We're, like I said, it's highly regulated from a cannabis and hemp perspective. I wish we could test for psilocybin. It'd be a whole new revenue stream.
I can't believe they won't let you make money.
Here.
I think that's some craziness, Todd.
They have a big problem with us making money. It is a bad thing.
Todd, they'll just let you open up a new side. You'll have to rent a new side of the space, and then you'll have to
new building, new walls, new power, new everything.
Yeah, Todd. You should just take
licensing,
take over that space next door, and you could do a whole new capital raise and buy a whole bunch of new equipment and all that good stuff.
Excellent idea. I'll just kick out Blackbird.
I mean, why not?
Who lives there now?
Mm-hmm. Anyways, we're going to roll to a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh, man, that was weird. Hey, you, America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host,
Mr. Jason Beck smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
Yeah, and we're back.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know who's up next. It's the man who was dancing to "They Not Like Us."
Oh yes.
Yesterday, when the verdict dropped that Donald Trump is America's new king.
Oh God, these lefties
united everybody against Joe Biden and everything that the liberals have to say and do. Here is the highest Republican in the world, Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah, Rico, you know what time it is. That's right. Thank God we have a real Supreme Court. You know what I'm saying, you guys? But let me tell you something. Yeah, that's right. Let me tell you something, you guys. The court dismisses a lawsuit challenge federal marijuana laws, you guys. That's right. The U.S. District Court of Massachusetts dismissed a case challenging marijuana's federal illegality on Monday, rejecting arguments made by cannabis companies against prohibition. U.S. District Judge Mark Mastroianni, an Obama appointee, ruled that the plaintiffs have standing to sue, but in dismissing the lawsuit, his order applied the same analysis that the Supreme Court did when it last addressed the issue in 2005 in Gonzalez versus Raich. In a quote, "Only the Supreme Court can overrule its own decisions, and lower courts must apply a precedent when with direct application, even if there is a basis for believing the precedent has been undermined by later developments," the order read. The Massachusetts marijuana companies, represented by the powerhouse law firm of David Boyce, I know David Boyce, and shout out to him, had argued that the facts around marijuana have changed since the Supreme Court ruled on that issue, and I think he's correct on that. But nonetheless, the companies plan to appeal the ruling, as they should, and some details on this case. While attorneys for the Justice Department challenged the marijuana companies' standing, the court ruled that the plaintiffs in the case had grounds to sue due to the threat of federal enforcement. In a quote, "The court finds the plaintiffs have shown there is a causal connection between their economic injuries and the CSA," the order read. But the court ruled in favor of the federal government when it came to the Commerce Clause and due process. In Raich, the Supreme Court ruled that even state legal medical marijuana cultivation was subject to the Commerce Clause because of its potential impact on the interstate commerce of cannabis. In a quote, "This court must apply the same analytic framework in this case because plaintiff's Commerce Clause claim is legally identical to the claim in Raich," the order read. The order also found that there is no precedent establishing a fundamental right to curative cannabis in the U.S., and in the absence of a fundamental right to engage in the cultivation, processing, and distribution of marijuana, plaintiffs cannot prevail on their substantive due process claim, the order read. And a little bit more context in all of this for you guys. While plenty of pro-marijuana advocates have attempted to challenge marijuana's federal illegality over the years, this case is notable because the plaintiffs are being represented by the law firm of Boyce, best known for its successful antitrust litigation breaking up Microsoft. Josh Schiller, a partner at Boyce Schiller Flexner and one of the attorneys representing the plaintiffs, said that the ruling was fair even though their constitutional arguments were rejected by the court, he says. In a quote, he says, "I'm pleased with the substance of it because the court finally said we had standing," Schuler said in an interview. But
He also says the timing of the order was serendipitous. He said because of the Supreme Court's recent ruling on Chevron deference, a legal doctrine that protected federal regulations from lawsuits. That ruling could imperil efforts by the Biden administration to loosen federal marijuana restrictions, making the canna provisions case all the more important to state cannabis actors, Schiller explained. And you guys want to know what's next? Well, attorneys for the plaintiffs plan to appeal the decision to the First U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston. Whether that court decides to hear the case itself or punts it to the Supreme Court, either outcome would be fine with us, Schuler said. Well, I think overall, now, David Boyce, I sat with David Boyce when he first wanted to raise funds to make these arguments and find some cannabis companies that would fund his firm to make these arguments. And so I will say that I'm glad that I didn't put funds into it based off of this ruling. But I do think that ultimately they will ultimately win this case, mainly because of the Chevron decision that happened yesterday. And I'm going to digress and see what you guys have to say. And this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think about this?
It's constitutional law. Once again, it's equal protection underneath the Constitution of the United States. No one wants to step up and be the person that pushes that forward, though, from a court-appointed standpoint, because they are still elected officials. They're still getting money from people, and they're still looking behind their backs before they rule on something that's going to upset someone. So I think, I would encourage someone to sack up and do it.
I thought this was the one. I thought these were the guys that take them down. I thought these were the giant killers, Jason.
They are. David Boyce is a very very functional lawyer.
More than functional. I mean, he's at a level that most attorneys will never reach. And so
that's true.
This is the case. And so this is a stepping stone to where they're trying to take this case. So the reason why they're not upset around what happened with this case is because it allowed them to at least cement that they have standing, which means that they can take it to that next step. I don't think they ever expected that they were just going to get some miraculous outcome at this level of the court process and that everything was just going to be peaches and roses moving forward. So they're happy because they're moving forward, and they know that the precedents that were cited in this court case were at a Supreme Court level, and the only way that you can get that to be changed is likely to have to go back before the Supreme Court. Now, you had made a comment earlier, Jason, about the Supreme Court. This Supreme Court, I've gotten more Supreme out of a Taco Bell order. However,
stop it.
This Supreme Court is likely to rule in ways that are more deeply partisan than anything we've ever seen in 75 years. And for cannabis, if that aligns with a states' rights mindset and all of the Federalist Society devotees who think that the court is the place where real societal change can happen and further their agenda, there is an argument that moving it along to the next step in the process and eventually getting to the Supreme Court is not only part of the strategy, but is probably where they expected that they'll finally get the results that they're trying to achieve anyway.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see.
That's it? That's all you got to say on that, Rico? Really?
Clearly can't trust the Supreme Court to make rational decisions.
I trust.
Todd's picking up what I'm putting down.
I trust over half of them to do it. Not some of the wokies, but the rest of them.
You trust 6 of them?
Yeah.
The wokies.
I don't know, man. It depends on what kind of weekend that the human beer can, a.k.a. Brett Kavanaugh, had.
Yeah.
You have no idea what kind of Monday mornings he's going to have.
Here, I'm gonna send this picture over to Adam real quick. Adam, where do you want me to send this to?
His case of the Mondays comes in Busch Light flavoring.
This is a photo of me and Mr. David Boyce. I just emailed it over to Adam. He's going to have this up in just a second.
How do you have that so quickly to recall? Like, I can't even find the selfies I took 3 weeks ago with the dog in the park, and like you're able to bada bing, bada boom. Like, do you have those all categorized on your phone? How does that work for you? Because I'm impressed.
Well, so all of my
Jason, you can't remember. You can't seem to remember shit else, but you can't remember where all your photos are, huh?
I mean, we were on an episode 2 weeks ago, and he popped up a picture of him in Germany because we were covering Germany like it was no big deal. Like searching his iPhone, me in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
You can search that.
Well, you can do that on the iPhone, right? All you have to do is put.
It doesn't
Germany
work. It doesn't work for me because I have my location services off on my phone, so it doesn't work like that on my photos. But that's cute that you guys would think that.
So, sure, Jason. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So this is you and David Boyce, huh?
Yeah. You got the photo, Adam?
The resolution looks a little low, so all I see is Pride Month. I don't know what these two people are.
That's me. That's me and David Boyce when we had the whole conversation a number of years ago in regards to him wanting to file and do this whole case originally. So shout out to David Boyce and their law firm, and you know what I mean? Yeah. It's my guy.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah.
How about?
Yeah, because this is the same guy that did the MLB ruling, the Microsoft ruling. Like he's a powerhouse in the legal world.
We do also have to acknowledge that was not Schuler in that story. That was Schiller, just because it's probably going to pop up in mine as well. So I wanted to make sure before I said it correctly that we give the man the.
Hey, Jason, what are you drinking there?
What do you mean?
Something with the rufinol in it. I don't know
best
if it's
water
a shadow or just a smug smile. It's hard for me to see with the resolution.
I think it's a THC infused beverage.
No, there's no beverage in
There is no beverage in my hand. What are you guys talking about?
You guys are starting to like superimpose these.
You guys must have had some of those. You guys must have had some of those candies from Rico's story or something.
I don't know, man. Are you holding a phantom cup there, Jason?
There's no cups in my hand.
No, that's water that he's truly trying to spill all in my laptop.
You're just holding your arm there.
Yeah,
it's there.
Looks like you didn't know what to do with your hand in that picture.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I was just gonna say, if there is no cup in his hand, why are you keeping your pinky out?
Yeah,
pinkies up.
Like you're about
Pinkies up, bro.
Snip his hair.
Pinkies up.
You know, you get your Joe Biden on. You know what I'm saying?
Classy.
You guys are crazy. You guys are
Mamba
crazy.
mentality.
Shout out to the Boyce law firm and all the work that they're trying to do for our community. But nonetheless,
let's hear for the boys.
Oh, that was cute. We're gonna roll right on in to Mr. Testing himself. That's right, Mr. Todd Denkin. He's the golden voice who loves to test weed, but apparently can't test anything else over there at Digipath Labs. He's also the founder of the Smuggleverse, where you can buy all of your digital dank that you can't actually smoke. But nonetheless, it is none other than Todd Denkin.
Thank you, Jay. Look, your avatar needs to get high.
Yes.
The digital dank is smoked with your avatar. Well, thanks for that, Jason. Your favorite governor is in the news yet again. DeSantis' marijuana opposition campaign in Florida raises just $10,000 as pro-legalization committee rakes in tens of millions. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, recently launched political action committee opposing a marijuana legalization ballot initiative and has so far raised only $10,000, just 1/6,000th of the amount of money that's poured into the effort to pass the cannabis measure. As of last week, the DeSantis Florida Freedom Fund has only raised $10,000 in contributions, all coming from one former Republican congressman representing Pennsylvania. Campaign finance records from the Division of Elections records show. By contrast, the Smart and Safe Florida campaign behind the marijuana initiative has raised over $60 million. Of course, the PAC founded by the governor only launched in May, whereas the cannabis campaign has been active since late 2022. Even so, the early numbers seem to signal a lack of enthusiasm among prospective donors about supporting the effort to derail marijuana legalization, as well as an abortion rights proposal that the DeSantis committee is also seeking to defeat. Former U.S. Representative Keith Rothfuss, a Republican from Pennsylvania, the DeSantis committee's sole donor, voted against numerous amendments in Congress to shield state marijuana laws from federal interference. He also opposed measures on cannabis banking and to allow Department of Veterans Affairs doctors to recommend medical marijuana. The campaign finance data was first reported by Florida Politics on Saturday. DeSantis has been railing against the marijuana measure for months, most recently arguing that it would protect the right to use cannabis more strongly than the First Amendment protects free speech or the Second Amendment protects gun rights, and again claiming that the reform has been a failed experiment in such states as Colorado. The governor said last week that the proposal would allow people to do marijuana wherever you want. Just smoke it, take it, and it would turn Florida into San Francisco or Chicago or some of these places. He then reprised one of his chief complaints about the potential impact of legalization, smelling cannabis. He said, "We've got to keep our streets clean. We cannot have every town smelling like marijuana. We cannot have every hotel smelling. Theme parks." And adding that voters don't really understand the specifics of the legislation proposal and that ballot initiatives are generally, quote, so bogus. DeSantis acknowledged that the state Supreme Court has a role in reviewing ballot language for constitutionality and that majority of justices determined that the marijuana measure met the legal standard. But while he previously correctly predicted the court would approve the initiative following a challenge from the state attorney General Ashley Moody, also a Republican, he now says the two dissenting justices were correct in trying to block voters from deciding on the measure. Well, they don't want voters deciding on things. DeSantis also claimed last month that if voters approve the marijuana legalization initiative, people, quote, will be able to bring 20 joints to an elementary school, unquote. And he again complained about the prevalent odor of cannabis that says would result from the reform. Legalization, quote, has not worked in any single place, the governor said. He challenged a recent ad from the campaign that promoted regulating cannabis as an alternative to the status quo of people using untested cannabis from illicit sellers. Meanwhile, according to a Fox News poll released last month, 2 in 3 Florida voters support the cannabis initiative, with the issue proving more popular than the governor himself. The survey showed majority support for legalization across the political spectrum, too. Despite his opposition to the marijuana legalization, DeSantis recently vetoed a bill to ban the sale of intoxicating hemp-derived cannabinoids in his state. The action came amid reporting that the governor planned to block the hemp prohibition legalization in hopes that the industry would return the favor by financially assisting in his effort to defeat the marijuana initiative. The governor has consistently argued that the state shouldn't go beyond the existing medical cannabis program and that broader reform would negatively impact the quality of life for Floridians. The Florida Republican Party also formally came out against Amendment 3 last month. Martin Save Florida separately announced in March that it was working to form a coalition of veterans to build voter support for the reform, and the campaign has since formally launched that initiative. Here's what the Smart and Safe Florida Marijuana Legalization Initiative would accomplish. Adults 21 and older could purchase and possess up to 3 ounces of cannabis for personal use. The cap for marijuana concentrates would be 5 grams. Medical cannabis dispensaries could acquire, cultivate, process, manufacture, sell, and distribute marijuana products and marijuana accessories to adults for personal use. The legislature would be authorized but not required to approve additional entities that are not currently licensed cannabis dispensaries. The initiative specifies that nothing in the proposal prevents the legislature from enacting laws that are consistent with this amendment. The amendment further clarifies that nothing about the proposal changes federal law, which seems to be an effort to avoid past legal challenges about misleading ballot language. There are no provisions for home cultivation, expungement of prior records, or social equity. The measure would take effect 6 months following approval from voters. Economic analysis from the Florida legislature and DeSantis' office estimate that marijuana legalization initiative would generate between $195 million and $431 million in new sales tax revenue annually if voters enact it. Those figures could increase considerably if lawmakers opted to impose an additional excise tax on cannabis transactions that's similar to the ones in place in other legalized states. Unlike the governor, U.S. Representative Brian Mast, a Republican from Florida, said in April that he does believe Florida voters will approve the legalization initiative. I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News. And what do you guys think about America's least favorite governor trying to block the will of the people again?
He just needs to sit down and smoke with Jason Beck, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We would have an amazing conversation together. Yes. I mean,
really does.
I mean, he's just trying to gaslight people right now. He wants to pander to his base to try to raise some money. And I know a lot of these people are probably going to give him some. They are going to give him some money. He probably just hasn't got it yet. But I could name probably like 5 or 6 families that I know that are going to give him some money in regards to this. But that's because they're prohibitionists and they have lost children from drugs and whatnot, and they do believe in their heart of hearts that cannabis is a gateway drug, and that a lot of it is due to lack of education around this subject. But nonetheless,
it's a gateway to happiness.
I mean, I just think it's a gateway to the refrigerator. You know what I mean? Todd, but the sanctimonious. I mean, I'm not too worried about this. I will say this. I do differ with my good buddy, Congressman Brian Mast. I don't think that this is going to pass in Florida. I think it's going to come very close. I think they may even hit 59%, but I don't think they're going to get over that 60% threshold in this election. I think there's far too much.
I think it's going to pass, and DeSantis is going to veto it. That's what I think.
DeSantis is not going to veto it if it passes by 60%. There's zero chance of that.
He doesn't like the will of the people.
He loves the will of the people. What are you talking about?
Oh, come on.
He's the most will of the people governor that we have in place right now.
Oh my God.
He's not Kristi Noem.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Mm-hmm. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
we know things I say stress you out, Todd. It's going to be okay though.
When are you moving to Florida, Jason Beck?
It's just confusing. It's just your opinion is just confusing.
Can we go over the tax numbers that they gave?
Yeah. I want to go over the tax numbers. I want
$400 million.
I want to intro you. I want to intro you to go over the tax numbers, but allow me to just sort of set the stage with a Kubrin comment that's like a moosh-boosh to what Saman has to say around the taxes. So one of the problems in trying to create bipartisan and broad-based support for cannabis programs has been this notion that there's always going to be this massive tax windfall and that it's going to support every important social program and that orphans with cleft palates are all going to have a surgery tomorrow because the taxes are going to pay for every problem that society has ever seen. And then they use these massive tax projections as like, oh, so you have something against Florida making another $150 million to $412 million annually? I guess you don't like potholes being filled, and apparently you don't like fire safety either. The problem with that is that while it can, in the short term, get a broader coalition to support cannabis, in the long term, it's those models that step on the necks of cannabis entrepreneurs and create an unsustainable business and ultimately fuel the trap. And so it's challenging for me when I see red, blue, purple, whatever, talking about these tax numbers, because we know that those tax numbers that are being baked in based on what didn't work in other markets is often the recipe for a non-sustainable industry. But I'm gonna lob this up to Saman.
Potholes, like we see these funds going to the general fund. The general fund is, guess what? Politicians and police. So we're using the same funds that are supposed to be building parks, fixing our roads, coming back to us, maybe paying the police to protect us. I don't know how many of you have had your facilities broken into and the police wouldn't come. Oakland PD, I'm looking at you. But, we're not getting protection for all these egregious amounts of taxes that we're paying. So, Yarrow, I don't think you could have said any better unless you still had the dreadlocks.
Wow.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Wow.
Saman, I'm open to what you have to say, since I think that the two of us here are very aligned in our perspective.
Well, yeah. As I get to the Sting and Roger of this nice, amazing joint I had. Look, I mean, the tax, first and foremost, Florida is a huge market. So we should look at the correlation of like a state like California and the tax dollars that's been generated here from cannabis sales, and compare that to what their, I think conservative kind of estimate is there. But I think that's part of the story. It's like, oh, it's not that much money. It's not like enough money to just push this through. And I think that's kind of the major underlying thesis, is that, hey, this isn't like a boon to the economy as everyone thinks it's going to be. It's just going to create more crazy shit happening in Florida that's going to be on the news because everyone's going to be too high on cannabis, which we all know is totally false because they're high on bath salts in Florida, as we know. So, I mean, I think it's just one of these, like, it's just disingenuous. And, I don't believe anything that comes out of Ron DeSantis's mouth, really.
Agreed.
But I'll say that, like, there's this struggle to, like, look like you're gonna do right by, like, the people or the society or the liberty of those people in your society that you're trying to govern. And I think that's kind of more the story here. And unfortunately, cannabis is this carrot, and it's just battered around when literally it could solve so many other issues for our country and for other countries around the globe. And I think that us standing in front of it, people holding the front of that line and not letting it really flourish is really the issue. So hopefully people get their head out of their ass.
I agree with you completely, 110%. We also need to think about with Florida, who lives in Florida, who moves to Florida? Old people.
People that want to save money.
People that
don't want to be overtaxed.
Snowbirds are called snowbirds for a reason. They're old, they retired. We've got a bunch of boomers moving to a state where the governor is not.
You have a bunch of people that are just moving there just to get away from wokeness.
I might go there. I want to play some Brickles, so we'll see. But,
Fair enough.
Split time.
I love Florida. I'm from Florida.
See what I'm saying?
I like Florida.
I grew up in Florida.
I like Florida.
I love Florida too. My family's in Ponte Vedra. I totally am not shitting on Florida, but
Too many red hats.
Policy, we need
Way
to
too many
understand
red
who's
hats.
voting for it there, and who's putting money into DeSantis' pockets, because it's the rich old people that are retiring there.
I mean, in all fairness, those rich old
22
people
million
wanna have
people
nice
live
places.
there. 140 million people visit there a year. I think they're going to pass recreational marijuana, quite honestly.
I don't think they're due, because there's a big divide within the cannabis community overall over this bill, because a lot of people see this as a big power grab by companies like Trulieve and others out there.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's no home grow, that's a big dividing issue. So I'm not sure if this is going to pass. I think it's going to come close. I think it'll get over 50%, but I don't think it's going to hit 60.
I think the senior citizens are going to bring it home, quite honestly.
I
They're going to outnumber the red hats.
That's never going to happen in Florida. But nonetheless, we're going to roll right into a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
All right, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com.
I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smokey Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smokey Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smokey Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smokey Vanilla.
All right, coming up next, that's right, we have Mr. Yarrow Kubrin. He does cannabis, he does real estate, he sips wine, and when he gets to sip wine, then he dreams of visions of cannabis companies having enough money to do real estate deals. That's right, coming up next is none other than Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
It's weirder and weirder.
Wow.
It's the worst intro. It's okay. I've become desensitized to it. Another way of saying it is I've developed a tolerance for the
intro. Is that it? It's not your tolerance to Pinot, is it?
I have no tolerance to Pinot and just full passion for a good glass. All right, so anyway, let's get to it. Tuesday, July 2nd. This is Yarrow Kubrin. Good morning, High at 9 News viewers. My article today is about Ohio. All right. So this is from the Canton Rep. So an Ohio newspaper. Up in smoke, North Canton votes against allowing marijuana businesses in community. North Canton, marijuana dispensaries aren't welcome in the Dogwood City. City Council voted 4-3 on Monday to ban them from the community. Mayor Stephen Wilder is expected to sign the legislation, which takes effect in 30 days. North Canton joins at least 61 other Ohio municipalities that have approved moratoriums prohibiting adult use cannabis businesses as of June 13th, according to the Ohio State University Moritz College of Law. The law school has been tracking the issue statewide as communities decide whether to permit such businesses after Ohio voters approved allowing recreational marijuana last fall. The 4 council members who voted to ban marijuana dispensaries were Council President Matthew whatever, Melissa whatever, Jamie whatever, and Stefan whatever. 3 of them voted against the ban. And I say whatever because literally whatever. That's not going to be the vote that defines their career, but it might be the beginning of the downfall. Asked why people who need cannabis for medicinal purposes have to leave the city to buy it, they said, quote, I think we're making a big mistake. Now, Mathanani said the city would allow marijuana dispensaries, but also require that they pay licensing fees and follow zoning and signage rules. And one of the other city council members said that, there was this disagreement. They had taken issue with the city regulating businesses, but that he himself was suggesting regulations. One of the other council members argued that the vote by the city's voters last November was very split on approving recreational marijuana. She thought it was far better the city take a pause before agreeing to allow marijuana dispensaries. One of the other city council members said the city years ago banned tattoo parlors. And she knows a woman who had to move her tattoo business to Plains Township, where she said it is thriving. She said bans against those types of businesses, such as marijuana dispensaries, don't really help boost the city's economy. Oh my God, this lady is definitely a Mensa member. Being dry has not served us well. Not allowing microblading of eyebrows has not served as well, she said. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the connection between microblading and cannabis. One of the other city members said he was not supportive of allowing dispensaries as long as the state legislature that he was delayed passing legislation deciding on how much cities would tax dispensaries. So he needed that money piece first. And finally, one of them said they did not want to allow the sale of a drug in North Canton that was unregulated, especially in terms of THC content. So reason why I picked this article is, first of all, Ohio was very good to us during the rollout of their medical dispensaries. I'm super bullish on Ohio as it rolls out adult use. And one of my never-ending themes on this show is examining the rollout of failed policies where we already have a lot of data from other states or markets to see the limitations of those policies. So I picked this today because yet again, we've got a state that's allowed for adult use. And now with this notion of local control, these small areas are going to be creating adult use retail deserts, very similar to California. And so I'm very curious to find out what my other pundits and participants think about this article today.
So Oklahoma just basically did what California did with giving them local control, where municipalities can say that we don't want to have any cannabis businesses operate inside our municipalities. Am I correct on that?
Ohio, correct.
Yeah. I mean, that to me, I think that's a big mistake. That's where California messed up a lot. I mean, the League of Cities is basically just controlling California, and a lot of these municipalities keeping it basically a dry state in most cities and municipalities, when we could have a very, very robust cannabis economy out here. And I think Ohio, I understand that they want to tiptoe into this or whatnot, but I just don't think that this is the way to go. Just set up some boundaries as far as where you want these to be located away from sensitive uses, and just let people apply for licenses.
I mean, this is most states that are doing that. Colorado still does it. I mean, there's still dry pockets in Colorado, who was the first to legalize adult use. So I think that, you see
just because it's bad policy doesn't mean they should keep repeating it.
I completely agree with that, but I don't think that it's completely rare either. I don't think it was just California's mistake. So let's go ahead and shit on everybody while we're shitting on states and bad policy.
Yeah, you're right.
Fair.
It's a rollout. I mean, you even see the municipalities that are approving it still not rolling out how they're going to regulate. They're still not figuring out what even their application processes are. We're just now seeing in LA, LA County is just now coming up with their legislative framework as far as how their regulators are going to operate.
I mean, didn't Colorado just come out with social equity just like a couple months ago?
That was more than a couple months ago, but they also give a tremendous amount more in grant money to social equity applicants than California even dreamed about doing. So if Colorado can do that, right? I mean, there was not social equity there for a long time, and there also wasn't delivery in that sense, but now there is, and it's
the evolution.
We're flying the plane while it's being built. We've been doing that for years, and we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, and I really just think it's an economic thing. I mean, as Jenny said, like it's on the onus is on the municipality to like create the ordinance that then create the pathway. If they don't care, then it's not a thing. So until they have an economic reason to do it, I think that we'll see just the slow rollout of all of these adult use cities that are coming online, allowing for commerce, allowing for sale, and all that stuff. So this is normal. This is very normal, but it's an economic issue. It's nothing else. It's not an existential issue. It's an economic issue.
Look, if it's legal in the state, it should be legal in the state.
Yeah,
right.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
I would argue it's not an economic issue in so much as I think there's ample data to show that brick and mortar adult use dispensaries are a net positive economically to small regions or to any region. And I think that what we're seeing here is the vestiges, the policy residual of the stigma of cannabis, where we're giving up state or broader control in order to get buy-in from local municipalities. But in creating these retail deserts, whether we're talking about Long Island or talking about North Stanton in Ohio, we do have enough data to be able to look at market after market after market. To my colleague to the right here, as she talked about it, it's not just California, and we've seen it over and over and over and over again. So the challenge that I have is, at what point do policymakers recognize the consistent failures of this local control approach that allows for brick and mortar retail bans? And at what point do states go, you can have policy that is more permissive, but not less permissive than what we're allowing, versus the opposite, where they're allowing them to be more restrictive on a local level? Because I don't think we can show a state where that has actually functioned well from an economic perspective, Saman.
But Yarrow, let me dig deeper. It's that the only way to get over that stigma is to create an economic situation that will overshadow that. So that's why I say economic issue, because there is some deeply rooted opposition against cannabis, and it's from the landowners, it's from deep-seated politics in those municipalities that come from those citizens, and the only way around that is to create an overwhelmingly positive economic situation that can shut those voices out and bring in the commerce of those retailers. But let's say that hopefully the retail desert situation becomes a non-issue because of direct-to-consumer sales, and what that looks like when you're able to bring or get the product to those people in those rural areas or those quote-unquote retail deserts. How does that affect that? So again, I think it's an economic issue.
Appreciate you.
Interesting. I just think that these cities shouldn't be doing it. And to Vermont alternative point, he said that up in Vermont that they did this similar thing as well. That if a city did not create any kind of regulation, it was automatically assumed that they opted out of the program. And I feel like all cities should be forced to opt into the program. And then if they want to pass some legislation opting them out, then they would have to go through that. So then that way that would engage more of a public response in regards to their want for what they actually passed. Because I believe that is in every municipality that has passed some form of legalization as far as adult use, it is assumed by the voters that there would be cannabis stores in their neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I advised Marin County City Council on their regulations, and they wanted to obviously kind of curb the black market. They wanted to generate tax revenue, and that was their main focus. And I kept telling them, you have to have brick and mortar. You can't just have this activity and have no way for someone to sell in your municipality. And they still didn't listen on that initially. So,
Crazy.
I mean, it wasn't great. I think it's just short-sighted. It's short-sighted on it's your city council that is deciding what you guys are going to be able to do and not to do in a municipality. And I don't know, like city council, I'm from the South. Those were always the good old boy systems. It was like wink, wink, nod, nod. We're going to get Ted in there because we're going to fix the pool system in our little community.
Well, Ted was a pool guy.
Well,
We got to save the kids. Who's going to protect the kids?
As a mother, I can just say this has never been about the kids, so let's stop throwing them little fuckers up there as our reason to,
I know
to be
that.
archaic.
I agree with you.
And on that,
I agree with you, but that's what they say.
Grom-free policy.
Yeah.
Grom-free policy.
And on that, we're going to go to a commercial, and we're going to be right back. Get ready for the 2X Monster Truck Live Tour, coming to San Bernardino NOS Orange Event Show Speedway on June 22nd, and in Northern California at Watsonville at the Ocean Speedway on June 29th. Make sure you head over to www.2extremeracingseries.com for all of the tickets for this family fun event. See all the sparks coming on the bottom right now? Where the train is? All right, coming up next to the stage, that's right, it's none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis, a cannabis consulting agency that tells owners and operators how bad they're actually doing. Not to mention, she's also the founder of Justice Served, a 501c3 based on criminal justice reform. That's right, it's none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
I try to tell them how to do better.
Is that it?
It is. The goal is to help them and keep the regulators away from their businesses. I'll tell you what's wrong so they don't have to, because they tell you with fines. A little less fun. All right, so we're rolling back into the Supreme Court again, Jason. I know you're excited about this.
Yes.
I bet you do.
Yes.
How will the Supreme Court's ruling affect marijuana rescheduling? The U.S. Supreme Court's landmark decision to significantly curtail federal regulatory agencies' power has triggered a fresh round of uncertainty about the status of marijuana rescheduling. But none of this uncertainty is expected to disrupt the Biden administration's rescheduling process, because he's asleep and forgot he had one. Policy and administrative law experts told MJ Biz Daily. The court on Friday ruled 6-3 along partisan lines that courts no longer must give deference to federal agencies' interpretation of laws when Congress leaves ambiguity, marking an end to the so-called Chevron doctrine, named for a 1984 court case. In the past, courts have handed over their judicial powers to interpret to the actual subject matter experts in the room, the regulators. Deb Tharp, head of legal and policy research at NUG-MD, an online provider of medical marijuana recommendations, told MJ Biz Daily via an email leading up to the Chevron decision. Consequences of ruling? Speculation about what consequences the Chevron ruling might present for existing state-regulated marijuana markets include questions about federal agencies' ability to issue future non-binding guidance, such as a new Cole memo, as well as fresh doubts over whether the Drug Enforcement Administration will be able to rein in intoxicating hemp products such as Delta-8 THC and THCA. You love that, Jason Beck.
Mm-hmm.
But the ongoing formal rescheduling process, the DEA is weighing downgrading marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act as soon as this fall. Likely won't be significantly impacted, according to the attorney Shane Pennington, a partner at Porter Wright's Washington, D.C. office, who has explored the topic extensively. I still feel really good about this, Pennington told MJ Biz Daily in a phone interview Monday. If you really scrutinize Chief Justice John Roberts' opinion, there's really a lot of good stuff in it. In an ironic twist, past efforts to reschedule marijuana have been dismissed in part because of the court's reliance on the Chevron doctrine. That reliance allowed the DEA to apply its own standard when determining marijuana did not have a currently acceptable medical use. But in the current rescheduling process ordered by President Joe Biden in October 2022, the Department of Health and Human Services determined in August 2023 that based on a new two-part standard, cannabis does have a currently accepted medical use. Based on that advice from the HHS and an opinion from the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland issued a proposed rule this past May to reclassify marijuana as Schedule 3. That decision is the most intensely scrutinized, intensely researched, commented upon thing we've ever had, Pennington said. Little ambiguity in his 35-page opinion on the Supreme Court overruling the Chevron doctrine. Roberts wrote that federal law directs courts, rather than administrative agencies, to decide legal questions by applying their own judgment. But there's little ambiguity that Congress gave the HHS clear authority on questions of science and medicine, Pennington said. And that deference is unaffected by the end of Chevron. That's just as binding today, he said. It's just as binding today. Other questions about the DOJ's analysis that the U.S. obligations under international treaties prevent rescheduling also are addressed in the Chevron decision. Pennington said, challenges continue. There likely will be challenges to rescheduling based on, or at least referencing, Friday's ruling. We still have work to do. There's going to be litigation, Pennington added. Other ongoing cases, such as a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of federal marijuana prohibition, also are unlikely to be directly affected. And predictions that the ruling could be applied in attacks on state marijuana regulations around licensing or social equity provisions are highly speculative at best, said Shalene Teitel, an attorney and former Massachusetts state regulator. Meanwhile, Tharp wrote that states have their own versions of Chevron deference and will likely adapt their deference policies based on the Supreme Court's decisions. More states will weaken deference as well and empower state courts to set the standards by which cannabis businesses can operate, she added. To me, this is just, well, it's important, but it's always been constitutional law. It's always been equal protection under the Constitution of the United States. That is a constitutional judge's job to rule on. No one has done it. Everyone is pushed out. We brought children. We paraded cancer patients. We brought everyone through all these use cases. We've seen that cannabis is changing people's lives. We've seen the medical applications in practice. The judges acknowledged it and then said, well, but it's not my job to rule on. So I think hopefully this will take that excuse away maybe, and we'll see. But also, I really think that MJ Biz Daily likes to pump up Joe Biden, it seemed lately, with some of their writing.
A lot of the cannabis publications are left-leaning, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But
why do you think that is?
Why?
I mean, is that just like, do open-mindedness and open-mindedness go hand in hand?
No, because most of the people that run these publications are already Democrats, and that's just what it is.
Yep.
That's pretty much why. Any other questions, Yarrow? As to the
I just wish the article had given a little bit of homage to Shane Pennington as a fact that, like, not only is a cool, I believe, attorney, but also he's got like this really cool, like, tribal, like barbed wire tattoo, and they didn't give him any props for that. I like Shalene Title. I very much disagree with her on a lot of policy stuff, especially the virtue signaling. Like, she suggested that anybody who's ever been convicted of an environmental crime has a lifetime ban for regulated cannabis. I'm like, thank you very much for virtue signaling. Tell that to all the brown people in the hills in California who may not have understood the idea of runoff and how to deal with pesticides and nutrients. But I just think that, like, we're in this very weird era with courts now where I don't think we can look in the rearview mirror to get any guidance around what the Supreme Court is going to do on a lot of these issues. I think we have got we're in a whole new chapter. And if Clarence Thomas is not on an undisclosed trip to Alaska paid by some other billionaire, we've got really non-predictable outcomes at the highest level of our judicial system moving forward.
I think it's pretty. I think the exact opposite, Yarrow. I think what we are getting now is just clear-cut decisions based off our Constitution and not all of these different ideologies by different judges.
What?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that we're putting the power
literally the
back
complete
on the
opposite of what you just said.
to the subject matter experts, which is still going to leave it up to the opinion of the judges, but it's going to take away that this isn't my job excuse.
I mean, I'm really glad that the Chevron doctrine was repealed, personally. I think it ultimately will help us out because it's going to be less government.
It's not going to help out because Jason Beck is going to be now the -- expert on whatever, on all things, anything.
I always have been, though. Nothing changed, Saman. Nothing changed with that.
Opinions are where trouble starts, right? Is when someone
that's what the Chevron doctrine was. It gave bureaucrats the ability to import their opinion in regards with where law was ambiguous.
No.
Yeah.
No, bro.
Yeah,
Let someone at least be able to articulate what it is.
I'm waiting, bro. I'm sitting here with my popcorn.
What it is it sets up the information basis for things from an expert level, perspective, let's call it. Okay. So as someone that went to college, someone that traveled the world, that has studied, that has been, intertwined in all these things, has the best perspective, right? Arguably. Jason, if someone comes to you and says, hey, bro, I've never run a dispensary before, I've never even run a retail store, and I've got the best perspective on how to run it, what are you going to tell them? You're going to tell them, no, you don't. You're full of shit. I do, because I'm the longest standing retail, cannabis retail operator in the United States. That's exactly what you tell them. So in this case, that guy, if he was a judge, would have all the authority to make his opinion and force it through and pass it as law, or as a precedent, let's say, instead of law, as a precedent for a law to be made. So that's the problem. Is that,
and it's a further consolidation of the power within the judiciary in a way that is unprecedented in recent history.
So are you saying, Saman, that you don't want experts in fields making expert decisions? Because that's what I hear.
No, I want those people to have a critical place in a judiciary where decisions are made that are going to impact rules and ruling on us as a citizenry. Yes, that's exactly what I want. Instead of somebody's half-cocked opinion or idea, or
then you should be happy with this Chevron decision, then, Saman, because you had a bunch of bureaucrats figuring things out for interpreting laws where the laws weren't clear cut, and these bureaucrats should not be figuring this out.
But now you have a bunch of attorneys who are now just
I'm good with that.
Doing the exact same thing.
I'd rather have the attorneys.
Matter expertise.
I'd rather have the attorneys than the bureaucrats.
It's actually just in a fewer hands.
Wait, what's the difference between an attorney and a bureaucrat?
I could tell you right now, an attorney doesn't have a government salary.
Rate.
Yeah, exactly, Todd.
It's not. This isn't a partisan issue. This is a liberty issue, right? And it's like if we're gonna have people making decisions that are gonna impact our lives, we really need to be critical of those perspectives. And if we're not gonna be critical of those perspectives, if it's gonna be, hey, just up to these handful of people, there's a big problem in that. And if you don't see that as a problem, then I think that's an even bigger problem.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh boy. You guys and your problems. Speaking of problems, we're a little bit over time. We're going to roll right on into Mr. Saman Razani. That's right. He's a plant formulator, a formulations expert when it comes to all things cannabis, and he even formulated an amazing product called Hello Again that reminds women over 40 how to say hello again. That's right. It's none other than Mr. Saman Razani.
Hello, America.
Look at that.
Hello again.
Hello again, America. Happy Tuesday. Talk about it Tuesday, as our old friend Rico says. I got a story out of South Dakota today. South Dakota law banning intoxicating hemp products takes effect after judge declines to block it. From Marijuana Moment. A new law barring the production or sale of high-inducing hemp-derived cannabis products will take effect Monday after a judge declined to block it. Hemp Quarter 605, a Pierre-based shop that sells those products, filed a lawsuit earlier this month in U.S. District Court in South Dakota. The business claims the new law's provisions are unconstitutional and in conflict with federal law. The 2018 Farm Bill legalized the production and sale of industrial hemp and hemp-derived products, providing they contain less than 0.3% of the intoxicating compound delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, also known as THC, by dry weight. House Bill 1125, signed into law in March by Governor Kristi Noem, Republican, targets 5 types of chemicals that appear at lower levels in the hemp plant. The chemicals can be synthesized and added in amounts large enough for hemp products to ape the intoxicating effects of delta-9 THC found in marijuana. Marijuana remains illegal at the federal level, even though it's legal in some states, and medical marijuana is legal in South Dakota. A violation of the new law will be a Class 2 misdemeanor, the state's lowest level criminal offense. Like most laws adopted by the legislature, its effective date is July 1st. Products like gummies, vape pens, and smokable hemp containing the chemical targeted by the new law are widely available across South Dakota. They are sold in gas stations, grocery and liquor stores, and specific and specialty smoke shops like Hemp Quarter 605. The company had asked U.S. District Judge Eric Schulte, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, to issue a preliminary injunction to block the law from taking effect as the case plays out in court. At a hearing on the injunction Thursday in Pierre, Hemp Quarter 605 representatives testified that hemp-derived products constitute more than 2/3 of their retail business. They argue the state is violating the U.S. Constitution's Commerce Clause by interfering with the sale of federally legal product across state lines. An injunction is appropriate, they said, because they will suffer irreparable harm, namely the potential closure of their business while the law takes effect. To earn a preliminary injunction, plaintiffs must first prove they're likely to prevail on the merits, according to the opinion that Judge Schulte filed electronically on Saturday. If the plaintiff, the hemp store in this case, is able to hit the mark, a judge must then find that the plaintiff would suffer irreparable harm without an injunction. The judge must also consider that the wider implications of an injunction on other interested parties, end quote, in this case, the state and those affected by the new law. A preliminary injunction denial does not settle the lawsuit or guarantee a win for the state. Represented in the case by Attorney General Marty Jackley's office. Judge Schulte wrote that the hemp quarters argument weren't enough to earn the injunction, even if the law might cause its business irreparable harm. In 2008, the 2018 Farm Bill did not expressly prohibit states from enacting laws regulating the hemp trade. In fact, Schulte wrote, it did just the opposite, allowing states to impose more stringent regulations for hemp. The legislator's passage of House Bill 1125 falls squarely within the police powers traditionally reserved to states, as it is intended to promote the health and welfare of South Dakota citizens, Schulte wrote. Schulte cited a case challenging a Virginia law regulating hemp in which the judge came to a similar conclusion. On the Commerce Clause question, Hemp Quarters had argued that the truck driver from Minnesota carrying federally legal hemp through South Dakota could be subject to state prosecution. Schulte disagreed. He wrote that the law wouldn't apply in such a scenario because it doesn't criminalize the possession of hemp products. It only bans their production or distribution. The opinion also noted that the Hughes County State's attorney has said it has no plans to immediately prosecute the owners of hemp quarters. The Attorney General's office has made no such promise, Schulte wrote, but lawyers for the state pointed out the South Dakota's Attorney General's office does not typically prosecute misdemeanor offenses such as those contained within House Bill 1125. And that's the story. A very interesting story. I mean, it's just getting more and more complicated with all this stuff. Again, as I say, typically on Tuesday, every Tuesday on the show, our focus and other people's focus out there on the bifurcation of these cannabis products has really created this. And so if we all got our shit together and we started fighting one fight, to legalize cannabis and all its forms and all its chemical formats, then we're really somewhere and we don't have bullshit like this happening. So I'd love to hear from you guys, but it sounds like a setup. This sounds like a complete setup. Oh, hey, we're not going to do anything to you, and then just keep selling, the product that makes up 67% of your business. It's just disingenuous. It's a bunch of bullshit. What do you guys have to say?
I've never seen bullshit from policymakers. Saman. Come on.
Saman, this is North Dakota. Are we correct on that?
South Dakota.
South Dakota. So this is the same state where Governor Kristi Noem governs, where they passed a medical bill by the will of the people, and they then rescinded it. Correct?
She's cited in this article. Actually, I said her name. Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's like this is just weird. It's weird, but why is it weird? It's because of this one singular fact that there's an intoxicating effect from this hemp product. Again, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. This is a waste of everyone's fucking time.
And what was the reasoning that the judge gave for blocking making a decision in this case?
He cited a Virginia a ruling in Virginia based on the same thing. It was just like, if you sell products with intoxicating THC in it, then you're going to be you're in trouble. You're out of bounds on what you can do with that retail business. That's kind of the whole thesis here. Is they're starting to come to this general conclusion that they have two competing systems. They have a system that's based on taxes and based on patients, and then they have this other system that has like a fraction
just free for all
taxes, and it's a free for all. So I mean, look, when you're balancing this, it's like you have to pick a side, right? You have to say, am I for the free market or am I for regulated markets? Mm-hmm. And so if you're for the free market, then you got to let it all be free. And if you're for regulating it and taxing it and doing this in a structured manner, then do that all across the board. But it's like, this is just a waste of time, and it's a way for, it's a workaround, but it's more than that. It's more just like this, this obvious,
what really is
our policy making.
You know what it really is, Saman? This is a way for them to just enable selective enforcement. That's all that this is. Selective enforcement is what it sounds like to me. Because they don't have the budget to enforce on everybody. And so they're going to try to end up making some examples out of a couple people and scare people with, hey, don't do this, or this is going to happen to you, or this could be you, yada, yada, yada. And that's all they're going to be able to do is just try to manipulate people's decisions with fear.
Yeah, but it's also indicative of the failing of the federal government to provide comprehensive strategy in regards to cannabinoids, irrespective of which plant they came from. And until we have a regulatory paradigm that includes regulation for all intoxicating cannabinoids, with no regard for which plant it came from, until we have that, states are going to do this whack-a-mole, Band-Aid, duct tape approach because they don't have guidance from the federal government. And so, I blame the feds on this. 2018 was a long time ago. A lot of science, a lot of innovation has happened since then, and the feds haven't provided a lot of indication and structure for how this is going to be navigated in a way that's compliant.
Again, it's a hole in the policy. It's a hole in the understanding and like the general education. There's a huge divide, and that needs to be shored up, or else this is going to continue, and it's going to just lead us down a path where it's just going to limit us as operators, long-standing operators. So, I mean, it's time to check yourself, America. It's time to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check yourself in your South Dakota, and if it's feeling a little funky down there, take a shower.
And if anybody knows holes, it's Saman. Hello again.
Oh, man. I see what you did there, Jenny Beth. That was good.
God, girl.
I can't even show my face anymore. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
The best for last.
Making a brown man blush over here. Jesus.
Man.
Look at his color of his skin relative to his cup.
Yeah,
you've
lightened up, bro. You're looking like the bottom wording on the screen right now.
I don't know if that's a blush, a flush, or a rush, but you are pink.
It might be a mush rush or a kush rush. I don't know. Shout out for boy out.
Interesting. Nonetheless, man, oh man, you guys, it's been a great day. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our correspondents being here today, spending their time with us, and thank you to you at home, the audience, for tuning in and watching the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Big thank yous to our sponsors.
And weed for the people.
Yes, weed for the people. That's right. Big thank you to our sponsors, Catalyst, as well as Cloud Media Partners. And we got Adam over here in the background today, pushing the buttons and making the transitions. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.